is conscious contact with God. I'm so excited. And I hope each and every one of you can feel him just as much as I do. So come on out, Darryl.
Wow. Oh, oh my God. Why would you make
No
me
pressure, no
cry?
pressure.
Oh my God. Ah, my name is Darryl and I'm a real alcoholic. Good evening or good morning or wherever you are. Hello. I'm grateful to be alive and sober. My name is Darryl and I'm a real alcoholic. I think I said that already. Now, if I can get my throat, my head, whatever. She messed me up with that one. I'm grateful to be alive and sober. And if there's anybody in here new or relatively new to Zoom or new again, I want to personally welcome you here uh, to the fellowship of the Spirit and let you know that when I got here, you guys gave me this program of action that was outlined in the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. And since y'all gave it to me, I haven't had to drink. Um, my sobriety date is May the 23rd, 1993. And I know it's but for God's grace that I'm alive and I'm sober. And I would like to thank Teresa and Ali for all you guys do, for all your service work, and for uh, that wonderful introduction. I'm glad I dressed appropriately uh, to live up to that. My counselors here, all my friends are here from the Never Too Early Big Book Workshop. All my friends are here from Los Angeles. You guys, we follow each other around. I'm honored, and I consider it an honor and a privilege that somebody would think enough of me um, to ask me to share. It's too early for this. I'm sorry, guys. And I got a long way to go in a short time to get there. So this is an 11-step talk, um, and um, and I shared with you that I got here, um, and you guys gave me this program of action. And when y'all did that to me, you made me alcoholic, and I don't have time to go into um, my drug log and all of that. Um, let's just start right here. I stumbled into Alcoholics Anonymous in disgrace. So, however you want to visualize that, because it describes me in step one in the 12 and 12, where it says, with glass in hand, I had warped my mind into such an obsession for destructive drinking that only an act of providence could relieve it from me. Um, and since this is an 11 step talk, and I chose for my topic, but its object is always the same: to improve our conscious contact with God, with His grace, wisdom, and love. Um, and the just saying the word God, when I say I stumbled in here in disgrace, um, just a little bit about me. I got here, I was in a prison halfway house. I came to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous right out of prison. And I don't know what it's like to be in no recovery home. I wasn't beat up off no run. I had been locked up for almost 5 years. And I made it here. Um, didn't know how bad off I was until I sat down in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And in the beginning of the meeting, the first thing I heard was God, because you shared the serenity prayer. You started the meeting with that prayer. And at the end of the meeting, they stood up and they held each other's hand and they said the Lord's Prayer. So everything in between there, I was sitting on my hand laughing at the stories, but at the beginning when they said God, and at the end when they said the Lord, I was like this, because I came in here with such guilt and shame. growing up in church with all of these preconceived notions and ideas about religion and God and Jesus and all of that other stuff. Uh, you told me, Darryl, just all of that stuff, just set it aside. And I'm just setting this up to get to where I'm trying to go. Um, you said, Darryl, just set it aside. Everything that you think you know about the program, about God, about the steps, about everything, just set it aside. And for an open mind and a new experience. I said, okay, okay. We gonna run it because I don't know about you. I didn't come in here, as my friend says, good. I didn't come in here running to the light. I came in here running from the fire, man. Um, all you had to do was stick a fork in me. I was done. It was over. Zilch. So it ain't like I had someplace else to go. Um, uh, so now, learning what I learned, what you guys gave me in the doctor's opinion, you described the essence of my disease and more about alcohol and more about alcoholism. It starts off by talking about most of us are unable to admit we were real alcoholics and all of the, the thinking that precedes the first drink. You talked about all of that stuff. But then when we got to we agnostics, see, in the third step, before the we agnostics, in the third step, you told me trying to turn my will in my life over to a power. So now there's another word. The first meeting I heard the word God and Lord. Then now you're talking about a power greater than yourself. So now in the third step, you said in the 12 and 12, it talks about it's like walking up to a door that by all appearances would appear to be closed and locked. And the only thing that I needed to open that door was a key. And what was the key? The key was willingness. And I don't know about you. When I asked the question, I start scratching my head. Where do I get this willingness from? I don't know about you, but willingness came from that tailor-made ass whooping I got. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a bunch of dignitaries on here. Excuse my language. I'm trying to be nice here, but I'm just trying to set it up the way y'all gave it to me. Okay. Y'all told me that's where I get the willingness from. I said, okay. All right. Because when I think about well, I just came out of a prison cell that had a window that was this big. And I looked over my life when I was in that prison cell. And I was done. I was 35 years old. So now we agnostics now. So I made the decision. And that's all it was. Because you told me to ask yourself a question. Do I believe or was I willing to believe in a power that was much greater than me? And I said I was willing because that guilt, when soon as you said the word God, that guilt and that shame still came up on me like, and where all the guilt and shame, I was a young deacon in my church. By the time I was 22 years old, I was a young deacon in my church. I was leading devotions and all of that, in a Black Baptist church. And one day, after taking one drink, I was over the van ministry, the visitation ministry, the van ministry. So I had keys to the van in my pocket. And I disappeared with the keys to the van. And they still ain't got them keys back because I disappeared. When I disappeared, I went to prison. So when I got out of prison in 1993, I had so much guilt and so much shame. I didn't think God wanted to have nothing to do with me. But y'all told me God has already forgiven you. I was like, really? Are you sure? I've done a lot of things. But y'all said God has, because I was a failure as a man, a failure as a husband, a failure as a father, a failure as an employee, a failure as a son. Anyway, and then in we agnostics, Y'all told me that God don't make too hard of terms for those who seek him. And you said that this thing was all inclusive, not inclusive, but all, you know what I'm saying. And that it was roomy, it was broad and roomy. So what that says, you mean to tell me that with all of the stuff that I did, with all of the shame, with all of the guilt, with all of my preconceived notions and old ideas about my mama's God and my granddaddy's God, and with all of that, with all of my lack of faith, with all of that, you mean to tell me there's room for me? They said, yes. There's room for you. They said you can make your own conception of this power. And I think Mildred talked about it last week. Um, she said it works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. So now I done made the decision to turn my will and my life, because y'all told me it was room for me. And I don't know who this is for tonight. Somebody might be sitting here going through it. You might be just like I was. You can identify with the disease concept. You can identify with one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. You can identify with, even though you lost everything, that you can start your day over again right now. You might be, but soon as you hear the word God, there's this, they suggested, set aside all of that stuff that is blocking you. And in this reading, in the 11th step, it talks about the the self-examination and the prayer and the medication. Because to get back to my topic, the object is always the same: to improve our conscious contact with God, with his love, his grace, and love, with his grace, wisdom, and love. So now I'm here, I'm sober. God has removed the obsession. How do I improve this little bitty faith that I got, this little bitty contact? Because I was going through all of this stuff backwards and forwards, and you know what a guy had the nerve to tell me? He asked me a few questions. He said, "Have you drank today?" I said, "No." He said, "Have you thought about drinking today?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, there must be a power greater than you that's keeping the bottle out of your mouth." And I didn't have to think about that too hard. It was like, yes, sir, you are absolutely right. And he said, you can start right there. And then, so in the third step prayer, they started in the third steps, they gave us this prayer saying that I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondages of myself that I might better do your will. Take away my difficulties as victory over them, or bear witness to those I would help. Of thy power, thy love, and thy will. May I do thy will always. They said in this 11th step, it says there's a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation, and prayer. But when you weave them together, there was this unshakable foundation. How do I start? First of all, I got to self-examine. I got to look at me. And this is a daily walk. Now, I can go back to in chapter 5, where it talks about that a business that don't take a regular inventory will probably go broke. Now, we can go back there. It says that I need to take a look at the stock in trade. The stock being my thinking, the trade being my, see what is usable and what is sellable. So what does that mean to me? You know, I just got here. I don't know this lingo. I don't know these terms that you guys are talking about. What does that mean to somebody like me? That it means that I need to look at my life. I need to check the stock on the shelves of my life, my behaviors, my actions, my thinking. I need to look at all of that stuff and see and check the expiration. I need to get up on the top shelf of my life. You know, that stuff where them cans is up there where you can't move. You don't never get up there and move them around. You don't dust up there, none of that stuff. That's my thinking. That's them old ideas. That's that old selfishness, self-centeredness, which be the root of my problem. And y'all said that if the selfishness must be smashed or what, it will kill me. Y'all gave me that in the book. So that in that self-examination, it says, without help, it's too much for me. But there is one that has all power. Now, here we go with that word again. That one is God. May you find him now. And I have to go back to that question that the guy asked me. He said, have you drank today? No. Did you want to drink today? No. He said, well, the miracle has happened. And I don't know about you, but the greatest thing that God has ever done for me was he removed the obsession for me to drink alcohol. Because once I take a drink, strange stuff starts happening to me. I take a drink in a house, I end up in an alley. I take a drink in the alley, I end up on Skid Row. I take a drink on Skid Row, I end up in the penitentiary. Story of my life. But now y'all tell me that I don't have to drink and I can approve this. And see, all spiritual growth sought through prayer and meditation to improve my consciousness. To improve means to grow. All I need to do, it says it requires prayer and it requires spending time. I have to take time out of my life. Well, what about, I don't know if you've ever been here, but in 27 years, there have been times that I, get up in the middle of as soon as I get up in the morning, I'm running late. So I don't get down on my knees. Because in there it says upon awakening, what should you do? It talks about asking God to divorce my thinking and any selfish, self-centered dishonesty and fear. So if I don't do that, my day is running on whose wheel? It's mine. Only for the knowledge of his will. They said, you didn't have no issues with going to find a drink, did you? And it says here, my internet is unstable. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. So it takes time. It takes time for me to sit and pray and quietly. See, now, like I said, I got these God issues, this agnostic temperament. But I need help because my will wants to run stuff. And I have to ask God to free me from self-will. And the rewards of practicing this is self-love. In one of the readings that I read, It says, I invest my time in what I truly love. Step 11 is a discipline that allows me and my higher power to be together, reminding me that with God's help, intuition and the inspiration are possible. The practice of, of the step brings self-love. What it is it's a consistent attempt to be with my higher power, to strengthen in the bond, to bask in his glory, to just sit there and receive everything to quiet my mind for everything that he has for me. But it takes practice. And it says, upon awakening, we consider the 24 hours ahead. And once we ask God to divorce us from self-pity, dishonesty, and self-seeking motives, we get a chance to go through our day. And when there's a time for indecision, if there's a time for drama, or if there's a time for some kind of, I can take time and I can relax. And it says here, right here on the bottom of page 86, take it easy. I don't know who this is for, because it says we don't struggle. If we practice, these are things that I have to practice. I have to do this stuff over and over and over. In the heat of the battle, I don't know about you. Like I said, I don't do this stuff perfectly. But in the heat of the battle, in the heat of the argument, in the heat of baby mama drama, or in the heat of being diagnosed with the high-risk prostate cancer, my mind wants to take all of this and just, but it says, we pause. We relax. We take it easy. And the more I do it, the easier it becomes. And see, then it says we will be more and more on the plane of inspiration, and we come to rely on it. The more I do this, the more I see God all in it. The more I practice this, I am practicing, improving, and growing in the will of God, which is killing my will. And when I start praying, and it even talks about what to pray for. It says, when making specific requests, I need to be not praying for me, because you know me, I will use God as this cosmic bellhop. God, please let me have, gimme, that kind of stuff. And I don't know about you. When I first got here, my mama, and I don't want to, she said, you ain't got nothing, you ain't got a window to throw it out. You ain't nothing, you're never gonna look at you. You're fresh out of prison. You don't know what you're gonna do. You're 35 years old. So now coming in here to y'all, and y'all suggesting to me that I practice this improvement of my prayer and my meditation. I have to do this in the middle of any day. I remember when I first in my first year of sobriety, I got a job working with Orkin Pest Control. I was the Orkin man. And it was my goal to become the best roach killer in Los Angeles. And I went to do a job, and it was they had mice. And I went in there and I asked the client where the problem was. She took me to her laundry room. And I went and I moved the washing machine. And a mouse ran right up my arm. Can you imagine? Imagine the scene. This is a little short lady in Beverly Hills. And I'm this big, huge black man. I'm bent over, moving the wash machine, and a mouse. I got on this white, my Orkin white shirt. I got on this white shirt, and a mouse ran right up my arm, scared us both to death. By the time both of us ran, we almost killed each other trying to get out of that little laundry room. Anyway, that ain't for y'all to be laughing. It's just when I got back to my truck, I had about a year or so. I was a little over a year or so then. I sat there and I just paused and I relaxed. And I learned how to literally take it easy. Because that's how sometimes the storms of life will hit. In the middle of my day, when my mother died, when my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer, I was 4 years old. I was her oldest boy. She was diagnosed with lung cancer in March. By July, it had spread to her brain. By October, she was dead in 1997. In the middle of that, in one of the books that I read, he says, out of every adverse situation brings us closer to a power that is greater than us, that can do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. I needed God right then. When they called us, they called my family to the hospital to talk about what would be. My mother was on life support. They called us to the hospital to talk about it. And by the time my brother said, it was 5 of us, by the time we all got there, they got a code blue. So all the doctors ran out of the room. About an hour and a half later, my mother's doctor came back in there, walking in there, looked like he had been in a fight. He was sweating and all of that. And he looked at me. I have a sister that's older than me, but he looked at me and he said, don't make me do that to your mother again. And I said, where's the paperwork? I'll sign it right. I do not resuscitate. If it happens again, do not resuscitate. That is putting this stuff in the 11th step in action, because it says here, it becomes, he said, what used to be a hunch or an occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. It was not no problem for me to make the decision right then and be okay. And I don't know about you. I have so many decisions that I wish I could have back. If I woulda, coulda, shoulda, those kind of things, I wish I could have some of that. But in that particular, that's what lets me know that this stuff works in my life under any condition. My mother was dying. But y'all told me that in the midst of all of this stuff, that I don't have to drink. And I don't have, it says here, we ask especially for freedom from self-will. I cannot win today's ball games with yesterday's score. That self-examination mixed with prayer and meditation, I think it says here, it will give me some kind of emotional balance. And I don't want to just be going back and forth to these books and all this. I've read this stuff and I've practiced this stuff, but it gives me, if woven together, gives me emotional balance. And I don't know about you. I was in, for part of my recovery, I was a real estate agent, and I did real estate loans for one of the largest financial institutions in Los Angeles. Very stressful. Trying to get loans, but to see somebody's face after I tell them, congratulations, your loan. But that process of going through it, it could be sometimes like a hurricane. And in a hurricane, in a palm tree, the winds will blow. And the palm tree will bend way down, but it won't break. This prayer and meditation, which includes this self-examination, gives me the ability to stand up under any conditions. And and it says here, it don't make no difference how many times a day. If I wanted to start my day over, it says 100 times. I can stop and say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the 11-step prayer, when it talks, there's that word Lord again, it says, make me a channel. Prayer, all it is me not only looking up, but lifting my spirits and a heart to God, opening this channel. It says, the more I do it, the more I practice it, lift it, it blots out my will, because when I'm in communion with God, it talks about asking for forgiveness, having the grace to bring love, to bring forgiveness, harmony, truth, faith, hope, light, joy. And they called it something about self-forgetting. What does that really mean to somebody like me? What that means to somebody like me is I need to forget about everything that I think that I want. And I need to ask God to change my heart. And if I ask God to change my heart, see, because there's one thing about God, God honors faith. And when you ask God to do what nobody else can do, what they told me, what I do is I set God apart from everybody. I put him in a class all by himself. And when I ask God to do what nobody else can do, he starts responding behind the scenes. I think I mentioned in May of last year, in 2020, right in the middle of a pandemic, I was diagnosed with high-risk prostate cancer. And scared me to death. There's just the word cancer. Scared me to death. They said my PSA was 37. Anything over 4 is, the 4 and under is normal. Mine was 37.5. It spread to my lymph nodes. Scared me to death. And I was in a pandemic, so my wife couldn't be there. I was sitting in a doctor's office by myself. Just lonely, a lonely feeling. But once the doctor came and he suggested a plan of action, and the plan of action was, you need to do radiation treatments, 28 of them, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. And I said, at every day? He said, yes, sir, 5 days a week, every day. I said, okay, scared me to death. And I would come, and we were on Zoom then. So I would come every day at 9 o'clock in the morning, but I had these headphones in my ear, listening to you guys on a Zoom meeting share your experience, strength, and hope. And I would leave there, be so scared, and I would talk about my feelings, right? And how scared I was. And my daughter's mother suggested to me that I read every day 3 readings on faith and 3 readings on healing. And she said, if you do that, it will remove the fear. I didn't have nothing else to do. I didn't have, what do I have to lose? I did it. In 2 days, the fear was gone and it pissed me off. I said, the devil, you ain't going to, God has already relieved me of one disease. Now you going to come and give me another one, put another one in my body. I'm going to tell you something. If God can remove the obsession for me to drink alcohol, he can do anything. So I got pissed off. And I said, okay, well, God, I'm finna help you fight this one. So what did I do? I changed my eating habits. I started juicing every morning. I stopped eating sweets. I stopped eating breads and all of that. And after 6 weeks of radiation treatment every day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks, in August the 20th, I went and had another blood test. And the blood test, my PSA came back 0.04. No evidence of the disease. That right there lets me know that in the midst of this pandemic, God is still healing. He's still saving. He's still working miracles. That was a miracle. The doctors were saying stuff like fantastic recovery, remarkable recovery. I said stuff like the grace of God. It's by God's grace that I'm alive. It's by God's grace that I stand before you, that I sit before you in a Zoom meeting. Carl Peterson told me when I was doing, you got friends that you don't even know yet. And these people will help you walk through whatever decision you got to make. When my mother died, I was 4 years sober, and you guys walked with me through. God strategically places people like you in my life. You hold my hand, you watch me cry, and you say, Darryl, thank you for being in my life. In my teens, me and my friend Carl, he's my sponsor now. This is another thing. How about this one? 3 years ago, I think I was 24. I'm 27 now. My sponsor, 24 years, decided he didn't want to be here with us no more. How do you deal with that shit? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot his dignitaries on here. Excuse my language. I'm trying to be politically correct. This stuff will work under any condition. And all of that selfishness and self-centeredness and all of that stuff that I was feeling, he left me, he did this. Did I ever think about how? So that's why this stuff about God, let me be a channel of thy peace. Peace you can't buy. For where there is hate, where that I may bring love. Where there is wrong, I might bring a spirit of forgiveness. Baby, if you ever want to try somebody's recovery, ask them how easy it is to forgive. That where there is discord, I might bring harmony. That where there is error, I might bring truth. That where there is doubt, I might bring faith. That where there is despair, I might bring hope. And grant that I would comfort rather than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved, for it is by self-forgetting, there that word is again, self-forgetting, that one finds. And it is by forgiving that one is forgiven. And it is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. My time is about up. When I was asked to do this, I come to this meeting regularly, and to hear all the shares on the 11th step, my head told me, Darryl, you ain't got nothing to say to these folks. And my head was right. I know. That's why I practice praying. God, make me this channel. So when I'm the channel, my will, my stuff, my selfishness, my self-centeredness is out of the way. And the language of the heart is a therapeutic value of one alcoholic sharing with another one experience to the hope. You guys have saved my life. You guys have walked me off the ledge. When I was on that radiation table every day, I had y'all in my ear. And you continue to do it every day. And I'm going to close with this. In Dr. Bob's nightmare, they asked me, so why do you do this? He said, one, it's a sense of duty. I do this out of a sense. I want to make Alcoholics Anonymous proud. I want to make you guys proud. And second, he said, second, it's a pleasure. You know, I talk for a living. To look at you guys' faces, to see, in Bill's story, it talks about seeing the fellowship grow up around me. To see families reunited, to see daddies getting back together with those kids. And it says here, the third thing, it says, because I do so, I am paying my debt to the man who took time to pass it on to me. When I got here, there was predecessors. My predecessors would say, burn into the conscience of every new man that he could get sober in spite of anything and anybody. The only requirement being that he trusts God and he clean house. And the last thing, he said, because every time I do it, I take out a little more insurance for myself against a possible slip. I don't know about you. When I think about where I was 27 years ago, I don't want to drink. I don't want to use. And like an old timer used to say, it's a great events will come to pass for you and Colin. This is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me in my life. And I believed you when you said that the best was yet to come. I ain't never had it so good. I'm sitting up in here looking, I'm looking houseful. I got my little beard going. This is my little pandemic beard shit. I got my, I'm sorry. I forgot you dignitaries is in the room. I apologize. I'm trying to break this up because I don't want to be crying all over the screen. But I'm so glad that I'm a real alcoholic. I'm so glad that I know that I'm real, because y'all made me an alcoholic. And God used you people to sow life into me. You breathed into my nostrils the breath of this recovery, and I have become a living soul. If you're new or relatively new to Zoom or new again, I want to personally welcome you here to the Fellowship of the Spirit.